The phrase hard act to follow sort of springs to mind. I have a confession. I'd better start with a confession. I am on the DNA database. Looking round the room, I'm not the only person on the DNA database because, of course, police officers and staff are all on it, not because we are suspects, but because we go to scenes. Before I said anything else, I did want to just say that the fact that the families are here today is profoundly moving. And we are in a business where we deal with victims all too often. And I just want to say it's just fantastic that you're here. And it means the world to this end of the benches. So thank you for joining us today. So I'm going to say three things. I'm going to fill the middle bit, and then I'm going to say the same three things, but in the reverse order from how I've said them at the start. Because I'm talking to scientists, so you want structure, won't you, and sort of understanding. So the first thing is, this is a seismic thing for policing. It changes what we do every day all across the world. That's how it is, just massive. The second thing is, it was made in Leicester. Good old Leicester, hey? And the third thing is that the very first thing it did for us was show that we got a vulnerable person in custody who hadn't done something. And I'll let David Baker, who is someone who we are massively proud of as a force, explain to you how, having persuaded his senior team that he was going to solve this really tricky case using some crackpot scientist who looked like he was in Genesis, who have reformed. I was surprised you were available. Yeah. And he's going to sort it. And then sometime later had to go back and tell those same senior people in an era when they weren't as reasonable, as nice as current chief constables, that actually we've got the wrong person in custody. Now that is a pretty profound thing. So what does it mean? I also find myself, I know something I think you might have just fessed up you didn't know. You said heaven knows how many immigration cases. 18,000 in the next 10 years. I feel like I've arrived now. So what is the legacy of that? Well, in 1995, as a serving police officer, I remember having to go and meet a sort of scientist type person and give my DNA, because there was this thing being created, a database, an index. By 2005, it had 3 million profiles on it. And of course, those profiles, some of those are scenes, and some of those are people. There was a point in the early 2000s when it was growing by 30,000 samples a month. A month. And as Alec has said, we're now at a place where about 10% of the population feature on that database in some way, in some fashion. And we're also in a place where there's a really interesting human rights discussion around that, which has seen court cases, legislative change, and where we are now is we can permanently retain stuff after conviction. Before, you could keep things without conviction. And that has been subject of all sorts of legal test and legal challenge. And it's important because it's about the kind of place we are and the kind of democracy we want to have and the kind of justice that we want to have. What's it mean today? Well, what I'm going to do now is the headlines from a real case, and there's a couple of people in the room who worked on that case, from recent times in Leicestershire. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, we get a report that means we're dealing with a murder. It's a Sunday morning at 7 o'clock. By 11 o'clock, the crime scene investigators are there and they're doing the doing. At 5:30, a key exhibit is found and people start thinking that this could have some DNA, and it's just what you said. By 10 o'clock, that DNA sample is on its way to the lab. And by 6 p.m, so less than 24 hours later, there is a full DNA profile. At the 7 o'clock briefing, the officers discuss and staff discuss how they're doing with the 20 suspects that we've got. How are we doing with eliminating them? None of those 20 suspects is the person whose DNA is then fed into that incident room. Now, what I'm not trying to tell you is we're incompetent. What I'm trying to tell you is the impact that this has. So we start at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning. By 7 p.m. on Monday evening, we have a name. And we know who we're looking for. By the following morning, they are in custody. They give an account of what happens, and we use DNA to disprove that account. And by Friday, they're charged with murder and they're subsequently convicted. That happened in a South Leicestershire village the year before last. Sunday morning, murder. By Friday afternoon, that person is caught. And Alec has made the point, the public safety aspect of that is just huge. It's just huge. We still work with Cellmark. They are our partners still. They are the people that we do business with. And you'll be pleased to know, having moved on from hypervariable mini satellite regions in human DNA, which is what we talk about down at the Nick, we're now excitedly looking forward to massively parallel sequencing. I mean, who wouldn't be? He's saying we don't want to do it. Well, we might want to. I don't know. Which has the potential to kind of hone down what DNA tells you. Potential. So, we get back to the three things that I said at the start. We shouldn't lose sight. I'm in the police. My job is to try and bring people to justice. But in doing that, the fact that this rules people out doesn't get enough attention as the fact that it rules people in. Because both are really important. It was made in Leicester. Nishan has just arrived as the Vice-Chancellor. We've had some very worthy, earnest, keen, enthusiastic even conversations about how we can work as partners. I'm not sure we're going to beat this, are we? I don't want to break your heart. You've only been here a couple of months. But the last thing I would want to say is to sort of bastardise Newton, In this room are some giants, and by standing on their shoulders, we all see further, and we see further because they, in little old Leicester, changed the world of justice for the whole world forever. And we're bloody proud of them.